All right, we are on another great guest. So when I started doing these interviews, my idea was not just to get every thriller author in the world kind of thing to come on and chat with me, but the authors that I like, the authors that I read, the authors that I wanted to talk to, and C.W. Blackwell, you were definitely one of those people. Um, when I read Whatever Kills the Pain, I was like, story after story, I was like, there's got to be a bad story in this. Like, there's got to, please, like, come back down to earth. And I get to the last page, and I'm like, that was probably one of, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. That's probably one of the best short story collections that I have ever read because
Oh
each
man.
single story was just so different and just so amazing.
Thanks for that. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you like this. I'm glad you didn't think there was a bad one in the bunch. That's important.
Yeah.
Usually, there's one that's kind of, you kind of skip through or whatever. And, it's so hard when you're writing them and you're putting them all together to know what order to put them in. And if there's going to be kind of one that kind of, sucks the energy out of the book. But it's impossible to tell from the writer's point of view. So that input is really helpful to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you're always going to have that. You always worry you're going to have that filler story, and you're like, okay, it's it's 10 stories. Where do I slip this? I can't be the first,
Yeah.
can't be the last. Where do I
Right.
hide? Like we're mid 1980s Motley Crue.
Yeah.
So,
No, one thing that was important to me is I wrote a lot of these stories just for the collection, right? Sometimes authors will put them out and they'll just collect everything that they published over the last 10 years. And then that's it. And that's fine too. And I did some of that, right? Half the stories were previously published, but I really wanted them to be like the top 6 stories that I published in the last, and I didn't even go back 10 years. I went back 5 years. And then the other 6, because there's 12 stories total, as you know, I wrote just for the collection, right? So they've never been published before, never been submitted before. And I did that so that, to try to create that cohesion, right? To make sure that there's a theme, that you kind of feel like there's not just 12 disjointed stories. There's,
right.
you can kind of see this through line from beginning to end. Hopefully, at least that was my intention. But
Yeah, that was going
yeah.
to be my question. Was there, you have this initial collection of stories, and then you go, I got to write a bunch more to add to this. Was there a theme in your mind? Was there a besides let's create some really compelling but really some awful characters or some people who get the
Yeah.
shit kicked out of them? I mean, is
Right.
there a theme
Uh,
there?
So, there is on some of the previously published ones, a lot of times, as you'll have a submission call by a publisher, and it has to stick to a certain theme. So that's where you kind of see some of them kind of diverging a little bit because they were very specifically written for a certain call. But all in all, most of them were all sort of centered around, sort of 2 themes that I like to write about. One is noir, just everything that comes with it, right? And then the other is having this sense of social realism, right? And which I think are, I really like that blending of the 2. So with noir, right, we're always looking for some kind of crime involved, right? There's always a crime in the story. There's also a sense of maybe, moral decay or, kind of, a sense of nihilism or fatalism. I love that about noir. And then on the realism side, I really try to write characters that feel real to the reader, and that, that you can really feel that they exist beyond the page, beyond this thing that's happening to them in the story. And that I like to call it social realism. I didn't invent that word, but I like it because it introduces that realism in a socioeconomic context. So they're real people who are struggling in a society that is really not beneficial to them as working class people.
I like your and I think your characters are super strong. I think that's definitely a highlight with your work. But there's parts of these characters you can relate to, whether you want to or not. And there's some characters that you're like, I know this person.
Right.
I know half a page into this, I know this woman.
Yeah.
I've run into this mess,
Yeah.
back in
Right.
my shooting days, kind of thing. And you know there's no happy endings.
Right.
They're not necessarily going to get what they deserve. There's no, gold at the end of the rainbow. But man, it's just so compelling to read these people and the realistic garbage that they go through. Because again, as a reader, you've gone through some of this stuff. You know people
Yeah.
who've gone through stuff. You've heard these stories from people, and I think that's really the great part about it. Now, for you, is it you more love writing the short stories, or do you more like writing the novels?
I do both. Yeah, I really enjoy both. Lately, the last few years, I've settled into kind of a pattern where I'll write a novel, and then, but what happens when you write a novel, right, as you know, is that you kind of fall off the map, right? It takes you a year, maybe 2 years, and you don't have anything published, and you kind of lose that love of publishing because you just don't have stuff kind of hitting all the social media and getting out there in print. So what I'll do is I'll write a novel, and then I'll immediately try to write 6 short stories afterwards. And then I'll try to get those published into the magazines, and then I'll start another novel. At least that way, there's always something kind of filtering out, and I feel like I'm still connected to the writing community in that way. Um, but I like both, and I like both for different reasons. I think short stories, it's really great because you can really get to the heart of the matter very quickly. There's no filler, right? And you can just zoom in on somebody, the most significant thing that's ever happened to somebody right away. And you can experiment too, right? You can try different. That's one thing you'll notice about the book, right? There's different tenses, different time periods, different points of view, and that's just me sort of loving the freedom that you have with short fiction, is that you can experiment with different voices and different times and different points of view. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, it's really not that a huge investment of time.
Right.
But
I also like the short story because you've completed something. 5,000 words doesn't take you a year to write. You
right.
go story, and now, okay, I've cleaned it up and it's out there. And if it gets published, then that's awesome. But you've completed something while you're working on that novel over the year. And I think for us that also helps.
I agree. And that's why I do it. And I don't think one, format is necessarily better than the other or more important than the other. But I just enjoy doing both for different reasons. Yeah. Completely agree.
I have to give a shout out to my buddy Chad Lutzke, because months ago, I write live on Twitch like 3 days a week, so I have an audience. Chad's one of them that pops in.
Yeah,
Chad's
great.
We started talking about noir books and different things, and he's like, "Have you read Hard Mountain Clay?" I said, I don't know what that is. And he taught, and I was like, "I know the name. I've seen the name. There it is." I'm like, You know what? All right, Chad, if you just shut up about it, because you've mentioned it a couple weeks in a row, I'm going to buy it. And I bought it, and I loved it. And that was like my first introduction to your stuff.
Great.
And
yeah,
and I loved it. I mean, those are the books that I love. I grew up on horror, but I also grew up on Dean Koontz, and I grew up on reading a lot of darker stuff that wasn't necessarily monsters or supernatural or whatever, real people stuff. So that's why I really loved your stuff. So when the collection came out, I immediately jumped on it. I was like, I have to get this, and I put it to the top of the TBR, and I'm glad I did.
Great. I'm glad you did too. Yeah, thanks for reading it.
Yeah. So Chad, if you watch this,
and thanks to Chad. Thank you, Chad. Chad's a great writer too.
Chad's the professor because he thinks he knows everything about everything.
he's an impressive guy.
Yeah. So are you doing book signings? You doing conventions, conferences, any of that stuff?
Oh yeah. We had, for Whatever Kills the Pain, we had a release party, which was great. We did that locally, and it went great. Did a lot of signings, sold some books, and in a couple of weeks I'm going to BoucherCon in New Orleans.
And
oh, you're going to be there? Oh, that's great. Well, it'd be great to meet you in person.
Definitely.
But you do the panels. You bring a bunch of books and try to pass them along to people that you might like them, do some signings, and it'll definitely be in the book library or the bookstore. Hopefully, if they get it all together. Last year was a little rocky, I heard, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But
I went last year to Nashville.
yeah, I was there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been there. I think my first one was San Diego, but
Okay.
I'm in California, so that was an easy flight for me.
Well, good. I'm looking forward to actually meeting you in New Orleans. There's quite a few authors there that I'm going to be fanboying over. I'm like, oh, good. Jordan Harper is going to be there.
Oh yeah, Jordan's great. He really is amazing.
Yeah. Now I've never met him, so you're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to grab you and go, hey, introduce me to this guy.
Yeah, he's a totally nice guy too. One of the nicest guys there.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and that's kind of my thing too. I started thinking of doing this last year at VoucherCon because there's so many great authors that you get to just sit down at a table and just talk to and meet and all that. And I didn't know a ton of other authors there. Michael Wiley's also here in Jacksonville, and he's been telling me for years, you need to go. So last year after I went, 2 hours into it, I said to my wife, yeah, I'm doing it. We're doing New Orleans next year. Like this is a definite. These are my people,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's a lot of fun, and there's usually, as you'll find, people doing readings maybe in the city somewhere at a local bar. And you can get a hold of information like that. And there's lots of little things that kind of pop up around VoucherCon that are a lot of fun to go to, and
they're doing a noir at the bar on Thursday night.
Yeah. Noir at the bar. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's going to be a really popular one.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
No doubt.
So are you any other big conferences or anything like that, or?
Well, next year, Left Coast Crime is going to be in San Francisco, and so that's only an hour away from me. So I'm really going to try to do that. These conferences get expensive after a while, but so 2 in a row like that's tough. But just right up the street, it's hard to pass up. So I'll probably do that, and I really want to get whatever kills the pain out there, and promote that as much as possible. So I'll definitely be there doing that, hopefully, with panels. And then I have a novel coming out late next year, called The Cold Dark Forever. And that's coming out with Shotgun Honey. It's a noir novel. I'm really excited about that one too. So I wanted to start talking about that one as well. So
that's great. And it's always nice as a writer to have the next thing you've done. As a reader, so many times you find a book that you love, and then you talk to that author, you message them or whatever, and they're like, well, I'm going to start something.
Yeah.
Like, we're readers. We want, okay, your book just came out today, good, tomorrow I want the next book. And then that's
right.
Even though it takes 12 months to write this book, I want the next book in 12 minutes. And then to find out from some authors, they haven't even started the next book.
Right. I know the feeling. Yeah.
That's not as fun for a reader.
No, it isn't. But then, I guess it's fun to go back and find all the stuff they did before. But a lot of the authors I like, the contemporary authors. Yeah, you're right. They haven't put out a lot of books, and so you get caught up pretty quickly.
I think it's still that old school mentality of, what used to be the big 6 is the big 5 of, we want a book a year from you, and that's it. We're going to promote this book for 12 months, then you're going to put out the next one and write some short stories, but don't work with anybody else. That kind of attitude. Right. For me, I put out like 10 books a year. I'm just writing and writing and writing. It's that, I would say it's the fear of going back into retail management. So in order to keep paying my bills, I have to keep pumping tons and tons of books. But again, it's all
I've been there
and all that. Yeah. So it's it's that next step for me. I would love to be able to just do that one, concentrate on that one book a year, and like you said, six short stories. That would be phenomenal to be able to get into that headspace that you're not constantly, every day for me is chasing that next Amazon dollar.
Right. Yeah. And getting in the short story market, I don't know how you feel about it too, but it's one of those things where you're not just working with one editor. You get to know all the other contributors to the anthology as well, and they become some of them become your friends, and you meet them at the conferences, and your network just kind of expands that much more. And that kind of dynamic energy, is something kind of unique to the short story market, and that's another reason why I like writing them.
I definitely like working with different editors.
Yeah.
To find different things about your story that you can take with you for the next story, or even if I'm going to write something for them. I've had some success the last 3-4 months. I've had like 6 short stories published, and they're all great because it's all different people. And like you said, you're meeting all these other. Oh, who else is being published by, Punk Noir or Yellow Mama or whoever I'm getting a story in, and it's, for me, it's not. I know people are going to go, this is the wrong attitude. It's not about the money. It's about getting my work out there, because I've been doing this full time for 14 years, and I can pay my bills based on my sales. So it's fun, not only, like you said, to write something different, to change the build of the story, but also for me to get some of those new readers out there that maybe don't know who I am.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Working with different editors is definitely, part of the growing process, I think, as a writer. I was really lucky with Whatever Kills the Pain to work with Paul Garth over at Rock in a Hard Place, and he's a great writer in his own right. The Little White Plane is a fantastic novella if you get a chance, if you haven't read it. But yeah, he's one of those editors that really understands, goes down, kind of digs deep into a story, knows why it works and maybe what could be improved, and is able to make these suggestions in a way that's really helpful and constructive. And we went through all the stories and made a couple of changes that really, I think, improved it overall. Endings aren't really my strong suit, so I always kind of, I don't know why. I guess they're hard for a lot of writers. And so I think Paul, with a couple of stories, helped me kind of refine the endings a little bit and make them a little punchier, a little better. And I was really lucky to work with a talented writer and editor like Paul.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, so speaking of the people out there that you like, here my last couple of questions for you.
Sure.
What 2 or 3, however many you want, what thriller authors really inspired you to become to write what you're writing?
I mean, as far as you can go back all the way to, I don't know if he's really a thriller writer, but I was definitely influenced early on by John Steinbeck. Also a lot of poetry that really inspired me to write, and you might get a little bit of that by reading my stories, and also maybe early on a little bit of Jack Kerouac, but also was really inspired by the Southern Gothic authors, writers too. Cormac McCarthy, William Gay, all sorts of different. But right now, I think in terms of contemporary thriller writers, I think there's 4 out there that I will really go out and buy that hardback right when it comes out on release day. And these things are expensive. We're not made of money. It's, paying $30-$35 for a book every time. It's you really got to be committed to be a fan. But Megan Abbott is definitely one of those that I buy every time. She's such a smart writer, and that her descriptions are so intuitive. Jordan Harper is another one that I'll buy every time, no matter what, in hardback. I'm really looking forward to his next one. I think it's called A Violent Masterpiece. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And he's as we talked about, he's a really great guy too. S.A. Cosby is another one who I really love. Another great guy. As friendly and great as he is, a talented writer. And I think the 4th one would probably be, I don't know if you consider him a thriller writer, but there are some crime elements to a lot of his novels. Is Willy Vallotton. If you hadn't had a chance to read Willy Vallotton, he's
I have not, but I know the name.
Yeah, and he's really into that sort of realism and maybe social realism that I really try to incorporate into my stories as well. But he's been sort of referred to as sort of in the Steinbeck school of writing. Yeah, he's fantastic. Everything that he does is great too, and I'll buy those hardbacks for sure.
Yeah, all definite great authors. Yeah, anytime Jordan Harper or S.A. Cosby, I see anything. Me and a guy Tom Duffy, who I co-write with, we're constantly. Did you see? Jordan Harper just had a great interview a couple days ago that dropped, and he's like, "You got to watch this interview." And he's already telling you the name of the next book. So
yeah,
you got to get ready. Like, okay, we know we're gonna buy it. For me, like Dean Koontz, anytime Dean Koontz drops a book, it's an automatic.
There you go.
And for 40 years,
Right. No doubt about it.
Who are some of the thriller authors out there now that more people should be aware of? I mean, we've talked about the big ones, but who are some of the people that you're friendly with, people that you're reading that you think more people need to read?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great, thriller writers or crime fiction writers in the indie space that are, just right about to make it huge. I think, I don't know if you've read Coy Hall much, but Coy Hall puts out a lot of really great stuff in different genres, fantasy, sci-fi, but his thriller and crime and noir stuff is particularly very, very good. James D.F. Hanna. I don't know if you've read much of him, but James D.F. Hanna he does a lot of PI stuff, and in almost everything. He's got a series going on right now called the Malone series, and almost every book he puts out is just better than the last. Libby Cudmore is another one who writes PI. Now that I remember in PI stories, and she's always in Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine. She puts out a lot of standalone stuff as well. Oh gosh, there's so much. Oh, I got to say too, Megan Lucas. If you've ever read anything by Megan Lucas, she is fantastic. She does a lot of, everything's, mostly crime fiction, but it's got sort of this grit lit sort of Southern fiction quality to it as well. That's really unique. She's one of the best in that space for sure.
Oh, definitely. I definitely will have to check that out. I think the cool part about this is all the authors you mentioned, in the description, I will list their Amazon page.
Oh, that's great. Love it.
So a lot of people jump in, and I know Tom Duffy does. He's like, all right, I bought this one and this one and this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for doing that.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. This is really cool. And
absolutely.
I definitely will be following you around at VoucherCon.
Oh, well, I look forward to seeing you and meeting you in person. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Armand. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely will do the Thursday that Noir at the Bar thing. That seems like a lot of fun.
I will definitely be there.
Perfect.
And, they have a Bloody Mary and beignet station, too, at the conference. And so the next day, we'll have to hit that up, too.
Exactly. That'll work. I mean, it was great talking to you.
Yeah, you bet, man. Thanks for having me on.